Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your patience. Welcome to a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for October 14th, 2005. The City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Our meetings are open to the public, and we certainly invite you to join us. For members of the public unable to attend council meetings, we can be viewed live on your cable station, Channel 35. We can also be viewed live via webcast from the city's homepage or heard via council phone. Colleagues, the time is just past 10:25, and we have 8 members present, 2 shy of a quorum. But this being Friday, as is customary, we have a number of special presentations and introductions today. Let's begin today's meeting by recognizing Councilmember LaBonge.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, good morning to everybody on this glorious Friday morning here in the great city of Los Angeles. We have a special honor of welcoming the commander of the USS Los Angeles submarine, Commander Thomas P. Stanley, the commanding officer. Please give him a big hand right here. Commander Stanley was born in Chicago and raised in Arizona, where he went to the University of Arizona, was a Wildcat, and commissioned to the Navy, as Navy Officers Candidate School in Rhode Island. Very educated man, very great leader, someone who's very inspiring to a crew of men and women who service in the United States Navy. And we're particularly honored to have him here because it's hopeful that the United States USS Los Angeles will be visiting Los Angeles sometime next year. Our colleague Janice Hahn, who is in the harbor right now and would want to present this to you. Come here, Commander, come closer. Would want to be here to present it, asked me to present it on her behalf for the work that you have done as the commander of the USS Los Angeles, and hopes that you could come back to our city next year into San Pedro Harbor. We're joined this morning also with Frank Barnyard, the President of the Navy League of the United States, and also Tony Parisian, the Vice President. And I'm going to ask them, that's Tony, good job back there. Tony, come up here because I think you're speaking. Is that correct, Tony? Before we have the commander speak, I want Tony to speak on behalf of the Navy League. We've got about a minute.
Mr. President, council members, I thank you for this privilege today. It is indeed our pleasure in the Navy League of the United States, the Hollywood Los Angeles Council, President Frank Barnyard, the Navy League of the United States, whereas as a civilian arm of the Maritime Service, we feel that the incumbent upon us to do all things necessary to aid in any way we can to promote the rapport between the military and civilian arms. As a Maritime Service, and in following the principle, we, the members of the Hollywood Los Angeles Council of the Navy League of the United States, desires to adopt as our personal responsibility to enhance the above-mentioned rapport. The USS Los Angeles SSN 688 to do all things necessary within our power to aid in any way we can the officers and crew of the ship. Now, furthermore, we, the members of the Hollywood Los Angeles Council and the Navy League, by the authority we have granted to our incumbent president, and with our full knowledge of the approval of the commanding officer, do hereby adopt the USS Los Angeles SSN 688, executed on the 14th day of October, signed by Frank Barniak, President, and Commander Tom Stanley.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that proclamation. Now it's an honor to have the man who's represented us around the world on all the oceans and the sea of the United States Navy, USS Los Angeles, Commander Tom Stanley. Come on, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome. I would just like to say on the behalf of the officers and crew of the USS Los Angeles, we're very privileged to be here. We thank you for the warm welcome, and we'd like to thank the Navy League for everything they've done for us this week, hosting us, showing us around, meeting wonderful people, and we're just very glad to reconnect with our namesake city. And on behalf of the officers and crew, I'd like to present both the City Council and the Navy League with an honorary plaque. This is presented to the City Council of Los Angeles from the officers and crew of the USS Los Angeles, SSN 688. To you, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. This is presented to the LA Hollywood Council from the officers and crew of the USS Los Angeles, SSN 688. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Oh, and thank you, Commander and Captain. We thank you. We'll find the appropriate location for this. I know we're also joined by Grant Ivy with the Navy League as well, and we appreciate your work. This is absolutely wonderful. This is the commander of the ship that bears this city's name, and I'm very proud of each and every one of you. I share that with all of you. We wish you safe travels wherever your ports of call are. And remember that that great song called Traveling Man that I'm sure some of your sailors like by Ricky Nelson was written in my district in Hollywood at DeLongpre Park. Thank you all very much. Commander, we're going to go in the back and take a picture.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. For our next presentation, let me recognize Councilmember Cardenas.
Good morning. Good morning. Today I have the honor of recognizing two wonderful women from the PTSA of the San Fernando Valley 31st District. Can Linda and Marcia come up, please? How you doing? How you doing? Many of you know that the PTA has been around for many years, but now they call themselves the PTSA because they added the S, which stands for students. How innovative when we're talking about education to include the students. But that's the modern PTA, the PTSA, and in the San Fernando Valley, they've been doing wonderful work. The PTA started many years ago, and it started with the idea of providing food and clothing and assistance to children so they can actually learn and be in the proper environment and get the proper additional environment beyond the school hours. But in the San Fernando Valley, they've done that and much more. For example, in 1982, they started the Latchkey program, which provided before and after school childcare for children in elementary schools so that they wouldn't have to go home to an empty home, and which actually provides an opportunity of assistance not only to the children and their families, but to society as a whole. Most studies show that most crimes and most delinquent activity amongst children under the age of 18 happens between the hours of 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock, coincidentally when they don't have adults around. And that's what the PTSA has been doing for many years. They've been providing food, clothing, milk, shelter in some cases, and at the same time they've been providing the love and commitment that many of these children need and deserve. And Linda and Marcia, although their children are grown now, they've actually been involved with the PTSA beyond that. Linda being the current PTSA president and Marcia being the past PTSA president. Even though their children are not in the schools anymore, they continue to be committed and continue to find the time, precious time, to volunteer thousands of hours over the years to our young children in the San Fernando Valley. And with that, I'd like to take this opportunity to have Alex Padilla say a few words, since he was probably in school when their kids were in school.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cardenas. I just wanted to stand here and join in the recognition ceremony for the 31st District PTSA. Colleagues, I think you are all familiar, not just on a policy basis, but on a personal basis, with the critical role that formerly PTAs, now PTSAs, provide. This district in particular having been active for 53 years in the San Fernando Valley. So critically important, and as you get to know their history, they have kept up with the times, which keeps them relevant and keeps them strong in the early days, providing the services and attention that Councilmember Cardenas mentioned. I'm just glad to see that in recent years they've also taken up the torch of advocacy and having been a strong voice on policy discussions like the funding of after-school programs, like class size reduction programs, and others. Another cause near and dear to my heart, recognizing the responsibility that we all have to educate ourselves and help prevent childhood obesity because of the epidemic rates of obesity in our grade school kids. Those are ticking time bombs when it comes to healthcare concerns that begin with diabetes and certainly evolves into others. So for their years of leadership, I'm just honored to be here to stand with Linda and Marcia and Councilmember Cardenas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla.
On behalf of all the children of San Fernando Valley, I'd like to thank you for this honor. We are all volunteers. We are here to help all the children in all the public schools in San Fernando Valley, and we are very honored to receive this. Thank you very much. Linda?
I join with Marcia in thanking you. It's really nice to be recognized, but the truth be known, we do this because children and education and families is our passion, and we do it because we enjoy it, but it's nice to be acknowledged. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's kind of interesting, thank you, that I'll be giving you this resolution on a day that I just got back from the dentist, but the first dentist I went to was the dentist at Telfair Elementary, where the PTA actually formed that dental clinic, and that was the only dentist we could afford to go to for many, many years. So I listened and I learned, and I still go to the dentist, but thank you so much for being that provider for me so that I still have teeth to go to the dentist about. So congratulations, and thank you very much for all your dedication.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cardenas and Mr. Padilla, and congratulations to the PTSA members. I told them I still want them to be active when my son starts kindergarten.
Well,
Mr.
thank you,
Padilla.
Madam Chair. I do have two presentations this morning. If I can call up first the family from the Neighborhood Legal Services. Where are you? Are they here? Maybe they're on the way in which case, let me jump to my second presentation. My other family with the Children's Museum. I know they're here. Bruce, Mark, Dana, everybody. Jennifer. I don't need talking points for this one. Colleagues, you've heard me time and again talk about my commitment and passion for the Children's Museum of Los Angeles. Started more than a generation ago by some leaders and some young leaders throughout the city. who saw as Los Angeles was growing, not only as the second largest city in America, becoming each and every day much more of an international city, and we dare say a world-class city, but having a void, the lack of an institution, a cultural educational institution dedicated to the development and enrichment of our kids. And under the leadership of Bruce Corwin and a few others, and I'll let him share a little bit of history, there was a vision to found a Children's Museum of Los Angeles. Private folks came together, committed resources, worked with the city, and acquired a space not too far from City Hall of about 10,000 square feet. And a whole generation of kids have grown up in Los Angeles experiencing a Children's Museum of Los Angeles. Over the years, the museum continued to occupy that same 10,000 square feet while our population continued to grow, our population continued to diversify, and a generation later, people were wondering, what is the future of the Children's Museum? It's an item that was written into our Prop K bond to help fund a new location and a new facility for this wonderful institution. I helped take up that cause when I first came to the City Council, and the last 5.5, almost 6 years, have been a wonderful fight, a wonderful struggle to bring about a new museum, a state-of-the-art museum, a forward-thinking, environmentally friendly museum for the children of Los Angeles. You've all been invited. You're all aware that this Tuesday coming up, we break ground on that new museum. Over the course, thank you. Over the course of the last 5 years, we've been through a lot as a city and as a country. We've been through 9/11. We've been through an economic recession. We've been through a reduction in philanthropic giving, in corporate giving, and even in governmental funds that we have for efforts like this. Nonetheless, we've managed to pull together from public and private sources more than $22 million for the construction of a new museum. It's not just a ceremonial groundbreaking. We begin construction on the new Children's Museum of Los Angeles. Joining me are some of the board members and some of the staff of the museum, and I want to bring forward to say a few words, both our board chair and a good, dear personal friend of mine, Bruce Corwin, no stranger to all of you, as well as a former staff member of mine and now the executive director of the museum, Mr. Mark Dierking. But first, let's hear from Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm here, and I'd like to introduce those behind me because it does take a village, and it wouldn't have happened without your council president, our council president, Alex Padilla, because he took the leadership that made it all happen, and we will be in the ground, and we will be open in a year and a half for the children of our great community. So Alex, on behalf of everyone in this city, thank you for your bold leadership and for making it happen. It's my pleasure to introduce Fred Gaines, our active board member, Stephanie King, who is with me behind me here, two of our board members who are here, Mark Dierking, our executive director, and Dana Katz, who is our director of development. They and a team of others have made it all happen. We have for all of you Children's Museum pins, which we hope you will wear every day. They're delightful. Your kids will want them. We have plenty of pins for your children as well. Wendy is head of the Transportation Commission. We expect and we know that it takes only 10 minutes from any freeway for those to arrive at the new Children's Museum with our new transportation chair. It's an easy drive, and it's something that every parent and grandparent will want to do on any weekend or any day. I look at that chair over there where Jan Perry sits 3 times a week, and I remember so well Gilbert W. Lindsay, the king of the great 9th District, saying 30 years ago, we're going to put a children's museum in the LA Mall. And that's where it all began, just an eyelash ago, just a minute ago in downtown Los Angeles. And we got together and we hired an architect who was not working at the time. His name was Frank Gehry. And he designed the very first children's museum 30 years ago. And here we stand 30 years later, and we're building, starting Tuesday, the new world-class children's museum in the San Fernando Valley. The San Fernando Valley, the 6th largest city in the United States if taken alone. and it's going to be a place for children and parents and grandparents to take their families for decades to come. And we came here this morning to thank you for your support, for your excitement, for your passion, and for your enthusiasm to help us build this museum. We're grateful. We're genuinely appreciative for your support, for your dollars, and for your encouragement to make it happen. And we are particularly grateful to Alex for his leadership, for his bold leadership in making it happen. So thank you all for this great and exciting opportunity to put our footprints in the sand and to make this exciting opportunity happen for the City of the Angels. Thank you.
Before I ask Mark Dierking to come say a few words, I've been reminded that we actually have a short clip for all of you to watch. If I can ask our technology folks to please roll the tape.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting us down. I also wanted to reemphasize to folks, especially those listening at home, that we are having a groundbreaking at 10 a.m. at Hanson Dam at the intersection of Foothill and Osborne. The community and the public is invited to come down. This is your museum, those of you that live in the city of Los Angeles and all of Southern California. So we want you to be a part of this and watch us grow as the museum is built over the next year and a half and as we get ready to open in 2007. So thank you very much. Please come out to the historic event in the San Fernando Valley on the 18th.
That's next Tuesday, the 18th, correct?
Tuesday
10 a.m.?
the 18th. And just on a final note, as I present Bruce and Mark on behalf of everybody, this resolution congratulating the museum and this historic milestone. I want to remind everybody that we have that groundbreaking next Tuesday at 10 a.m. That evening, for those of you who are interested in financially supporting the institution, we're having a celebration and reception. Bruce has been kind enough to open his home as we launch the next phase of fundraising for the actual exhibits themselves. Our special guests that evening are Edwin Schlossberg, our exhibit designer, world-renowned exhibit designer, coming in from New York, along with his wife, Caroline Kennedy. So we hope to see you there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Next presentation. Okay. Next presentation, Eric Garcetti and Wendy Gruhl.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It is my great honor here to join with our Mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa, our Council President, Alex Padilla, and Council Member Wendy Gruhl, to welcome His Holiness Aram I, Catholicos of the Great House of Cilicia, in his 15-day pontifical visit here to California. Please welcome him with a warm round of applause. We are also joined by eminent leaders from the Armenian American community here that are with us. Joined us upstairs. We had 3 members of Congress, 2 state senators, 3 members of the California State Assembly, a number of local officials as well. Welcome His Holiness, who is here not just on a visit, but on a mission to share a message of peace and a message of justice throughout Los Angeles and throughout this world. The theme of His Holiness's visit is towards the light of knowledge, and his belief that is echoed in that message that only with greater education and dialogue can the world's conflicts and issues be addressed properly. A little piece of City Hall history for Your Holiness. The great entrance doors that we come through here in City Hall are sculpted by an Armenian named Henry Lyon, which was changed from Arslanian. We have in this city literally the greatness not only of this city but of this building here, built by Armenians and by Armenian Americans. We have a number of folks that are here with us, but I'd like to turn over the microphone to our mayor, the great mayor of this city, Antonio Villaraigosa, a longtime friend to the Armenian and the Armenian American community. He has spent a number of visits with the Catholicos, most recently just sitting down with him before he brought him to council chambers. So please welcome our mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa.
Thank you. I want to thank Councilmember Garcetti and Gruhl and Council President Padilla and all of you who have allowed us to be here today and to acknowledge His Holiness Aram I. It is indeed a pleasure and an honor for me. As I said, he wondered about the red carpet, and I said, for us, you are a head of state, someone that we are indeed honored to have here in the chamber of the people of the city of Los Angeles. And I had an opportunity to meet and share dinner a week ago with His Holiness, and we talked a lot about the many issues that face us in the world today, the poverty, the lack of water, the hunger in the world. Many of you know he's the moderator of the World Council of Churches. He is not only the head of the Armenian Church in Lebanon, but also in the diaspora, but also very importantly, a very important leader in the World Council of Churches. whose voice is added to the many voices, both secular and religious, to deal with the many challenges that we face in the world. And I can tell you that after discussing with him those many issues, it was indeed an honor, and I can see why so many people have flocked to the many visits that you have been able to enjoy while here in Los Angeles. And let me say, Your Holiness, that this is a community that, as Councilmember Eric Garcetti said very well, that I have known for more than a decade in my capacity as an assembly member, as Speaker of the Assembly, as a council member, and now mayor. I represented the Hollywood area for a good time back then, and the many people I have met is one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this city. Because as you said, these are people who come here with a love of family, a love of country and religion and faith, people who have worked hard and made it in this great city, and we are so proud and thankful to have so many people. This is the city with the largest Armenian population outside of Armenia, and so on behalf of the city of Los Angeles, I already shared my gift with you, but we are indeed honored to have you today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Villaraigosa, and I know that your leadership has been integral in the sister city relationship we now have moving forward with Yerevan, the largest Armenian city in the world, and Los Angeles, the second largest Armenian city in the world. So we're very excited, and we thank you for that. I'd like to now pass the microphone over to the leader of these chambers, the president of the City Council, Alex Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Garcetti, and welcome to His Holiness yet again to our council chambers. A wonderful treat for us to receive a world figure, another recognition of the diversity of Los Angeles that has been spoken about. When people come here from all over the world, it adds to the fabric of Los Angeles on so many levels, on spiritual levels, on educational and cultural levels, on economic levels. It helps make Los Angeles the great city that it is. We know that for the future to continue to be brighter, it's a matter of strengthening our ties, and we look forward to many, many reciprocal visits and to welcome you many times in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, before we hear from His Holiness, Councilmember Wendy Gruhl, who helped co-host our reception upstairs, also would like to share some news with His Holiness and to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti, and I teased this morning that although Little Armenia is in Eric's district, I have more Armenians in Tujunga, North Hollywood, than he has in his district, but we share the love of the Armenian community and welcoming His Holiness here to the city of Los Angeles. We had the pleasure of hearing him this morning speak to a number of Armenian leaders and other elected officials. And you were truly inspiring. And one thing that stuck in my head that you mentioned this morning was that diversity is unity and unity is diversity. And if there's anywhere in the country, the city of Los Angeles represents that here in the city of Los Angeles. What I'd also like to mention is, and Eric and I supported a resolution acknowledging the Armenian genocide this past year here in the city councils. But Mayor Villaraigosa has asked Eric and myself to ask the council to adopt a resolution supporting two congressional resolutions which together recognize the Armenian genocide of 1915 to 23 and urge the Republic of Turkey to end its decade-long campaign of denial. And so Councilmember Garcetti's leadership, we will introduce that motion, I think, today under the request of Mayor Villaraigosa and his leadership in making that recognition and urging Congress to do what we have done here in the city of Los Angeles, recognizing that genocide. So welcome to the city of Los Angeles. Welcome to a city that embraces the Armenian community and is proud to have them as part of our family here in Los Angeles. Thank you, His Holiness.
And just very briefly, to repeat a couple words I said upstairs, you'll hear when you listen to Aram I, His Holiness, just what an incredible individual he is. Things that you won't hear from him are the number of languages he speaks, the fluency with which he speaks them, the way that he has brought so many people together from around the world. Just to give you an idea, with the World Council of Churches, comprised over 375 churches actually, representing over 400 million Christians, and he is the moderator for a second term of that. He also spoke recently at the Armenian Genocide Monument in Montebello just last week, and he shared a remarkable story of going to Syria, and there he baptized 2 little Armenian children and turned what had been a river of death into a river of rebirth and resurrection there at the Euphrates, which had been a symbol of the Armenian Genocide in such a negative way. He took that and just through his own spirit was able to change what that represents to the Armenian nation and to the world. So on behalf of all of us, and you'll be very pleased to know that this certificate here, that this beautiful piece of art was actually hand calligraphied by an Armenian American, Sabu Terizian, in our creative services. We'd love to, on behalf of this entire city council, the mayor, our city attorney, and our city controller, present this to you, Your Holiness, Aram I, Catholicos of the Great House of Cilicia. The microphone is yours.
Mr. President and members of the Council, it really gives me profound joy to be here with you in this chamber, which really presents the voice of the people. This is the chamber where the concerns and the expectations and the frustration of people acquire concrete manifestations. You come from the people and you have to be accountable to the people, and I am sure your reflections and actions in this chamber go to the people in response to the expectations of the people with the profound sense of accountability. I am very happy that I stand next to the mayor of the City of Angels, a mayor who is not only a popular mayor, but people's mayor. I believe that there is a tremendous difference between being popular and people's. He has identified himself with the people of Los Angeles, a people where diversity is one of the significant features of the community of Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a great city indeed, but I believe that the greatness of this city does not lie in its buildings, in the economic progress only, but in the quality of life that the Los Angeles community has shown and continues to show. The greatness of this city lies in the common values that have brought all these diversities together. And I am sure that the Mr. Mayor and you together will work to deepen these values, the values of family, the importance of education, which will help the community building process in Los Angeles. And I'm proud that my community, the Armenian community, is integral part of Los Angeles. They have brought their active participation, not only contribution, but participation in the community building process. May God bless this beautiful and the great city of Los Angeles. May God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Holiness, for gracing us with your presence. We're going to sit here for a photograph. If members of the council would like to join us, we'll take a photograph with His Holiness. And thank you all very much again, and thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. We'll take a photo at this time and then resume our regular business. Council members, do we have any more presentations at this time? This time, we'd like to recognize some members of the Fujian Province of Economic Planning delegation is here from China. Would they please stand, the delegation from China? Okay, thank you. We hope you enjoy Los Angeles. I think the weather's been pretty good this week. Hopefully it'll continue and you'll be able to enjoy your stay here in Los Angeles. Next, Councilmember Padilla, do you have any more presentations? One more? Thank you. Council President Padilla, you have the floor.
We do, thank you. And just giving it a minute here for some folks to clear out from the previous presentation. In the meantime, if I can ask Neil Dudovitz and the Neighborhood Legal Services family to come on up. We introduced him earlier, and I think it's been an interesting day getting in and out of City Hall this morning. And colleagues and everybody watching at home, this is another very special presentation near and dear to my heart. Please join me in welcoming to our council chambers representatives from Los Angeles County Neighborhood Legal Services. I'm actually going to ask Ms. Perry to join me in this presentation. I just thought she pushed her button, but she'll tell you why there's a special connection here. No, come on up, come on up. But this Sunday, colleagues, many of you have been invited to participate in a luncheon honoring the 40th anniversary of Neighborhood Legal Services. Neighborhood Legal Services first started out as San Fernando Valley Neighborhood Legal Services, helping the neediest of communities in the Northeast Valley primarily, from Pacoima to Mission Hills and Panorama City and Sylmar, but have done such a tremendous job in multiple areas of the law that their contracts, their service areas, their need really has grown throughout Los Angeles County to really service the San Fernando Valley, the San Gabriel Valley, and even the desert areas of the Santa Clarita and Antelope Valleys, cities like Pasadena, Burbank, Glendale, all the way out to Pomona. The services they offer, mainly to low-income families and individuals, are across a wide spectrum of the field of law, from health and consumer issues to domestic violence issues. Self-help legal access centers is a tremendous program that's empowering people when they have legal issues. They have an Asian language intake project. They specialize in housing law, immigration law, employment law, community development, discrimination law, on and on and on. And one of the things that compelled me to bring them in today for recognition is not just their anniversary of 40 years, but this Cracker Jack team that was also part of response to Hurricane Katrina. The bad news is the San Fernando Valley was victim to a devastating earthquake back in 1994, which impacted a lot of people, a lot of homeowners, a lot of tenants. And there was a tremendous expertise developed in the days and the years after the Northridge earthquake on insurance issues, relocation issues, and all the legal issues that come with a devastation like that, something that will really rattle someone's stable life. And the good part of it is this experience became extremely valuable to the areas along the Gulf Coast that were ravaged by Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Rita. And it was really a federal call to action that a team of attorneys with this expertise, this unique experience, were called to the Gulf Coast to help the families in the South that had been equally as devastated by Hurricane Katrina in all the same issues. So as we welcomed them back, just days after we welcomed the firefighters and public safety personnel who were out in the Gulf Coast as first responders, I thought it was equally important to welcome these folks back from their experience and their service down to the southern part of the United States, to thank them for their service to their country and to thank them for their service to the San Fernando Valley and all of Los Angeles County. If I can ask Councilmember Perry to say a few words. You have an interesting connection.
Yeah. Probably wondering why the Council President has asked me to stand here with him. Well, it's because I'd been a paralegal for 13 years before I did the work that I do now, and my first job as a paralegal was at San Fernando Valley Neighborhood Legal Services, and I advocated on behalf of people who were recipients of AFDC, SSI, SDI, all the county programs, and was able to get direct experience in helping people on a daily basis to not just transform their lives, but to save their lives in many cases. And it was an experience that was ever embedded in my consciousness. And I know that I've shared with Alex just walking up and down Van Nuys Boulevard and noting the disparities throughout the city and recalling that even then there were streets that were unpaved and no street lights, things like that, and how hard it is to create change in our respective communities. I also got my start with Yvonne Maria Jimenez, who's standing behind me, and while she looks the same, I'm very proud of her because she's went on to law school and became a lawyer, and the rest is history. She's out there making major contributions to the San Fernando Valley, and so it was just a real pleasant surprise to know that you all are coming in today, and I think I'm going to see you on Sunday. But to say thank you publicly, not only do you save people's lives one at a time, you are advocates for litigation that is transformative on major policy issues, and that's the quiet story that people don't necessarily know but need to know. So I want to say thank you and happy anniversary.
Thank you to you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And before you speak, Neil, I know Councilmember Cardenas would like to say a few words.
I just want to thank Legal Services for being there, not only for the San Fernando Valley, but beyond. It's unfortunate that you have many more clients than you have capacity to serve. And that's the unfortunate fact of the matter, in my opinion, that government doesn't pay enough attention to making sure that you have the resources that you have. I was just fortunate to be able to pull resources toward you that I wasn't enough, but I didn't realize now that I'm at local government, $750,000 goes a long way. When I was in the state legislature, I felt bad that that's all that I could get you, but I was very pleased to see that you've done wonderful work, and I don't know how you do it. You manage to keep it together. You manage to serve many families and many communities with the little that we do give you. So thank you so much for your services, and thank you for being in my hometown area of Pacoima for so many years. Congratulations, and we hope to see you there for many years to come.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. And before we let you speak, Neil, I just want to add my congratulations to all of you because I've had the pleasure of working with you both when I was in the mayor's office, but right after the Northridge earthquake with HUD, and since then, and the kinds of services you provided to people who did not have a voice are incredible. And so we look forward to, along with Jan and others, to join you on Sunday celebrating your many years of service and expanding from just the Valley to the entire LA County. We're all lucky for that. So congratulations.
Well, thank you, and thank you to Councilmember Padilla and Perry, Cardenas, and of course to Wendy Gruhl. I'm Neil Dudovitz, Executive Director of Neighborhood Legal Services, and on my behalf, our Deputy Director Yvonne Maria Jimenez, and the President of our Board of Directors, Peter Israel, who's a volunteer lawyer here from the San Fernando Valley, I thank you very much for those kind words. Neighborhood Legal Services has also been a partner with the City of Los Angeles for many years through the Community Development Department and Community Development Block grants, and we especially appreciate your helping us, and we look forward to many years of continued partnership with you. I want to recognize several of our staff who are here who have been doing the work with the Hurricane Katrina victims, and that includes Kate Meese, York Chang, Eli Palomares. Kate, by the way, is really a national expert in helping domestic victims of the disasters, and has recently returned from her second trip down on the Gulf Coast, wants to help people in Louisiana and wants to help people down in Texas. So we appreciate our role as national leaders in helping victims, disaster victims. We hope it continues to be not in Los Angeles, but we have learned a lot, and we enjoy having the opportunity to share that with others across the country.
So, Neil, on behalf of the council, I'll present this today, and I think we get an opportunity to present this again on Sunday. Please accept this certificate of congratulations for Neighborhood Legal Services for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think next presenter, Mr. Garcetti, had 2 additional presentations. And these will be our last presentations, colleagues, and then we'll move to our items of business.
If I can invite Scott Crawford and Robert Leary forward. Colleagues, today we are recognizing Robert Leary, one of those unsung angels here in the city of Los Angeles, who has done incredible work here, donating much of his time to preserving the history of this city. We are honoring him today because he's made an incredible contribution to the Hollyhock House in CD 13. Many of you know the Hollyhock House, which is up at Barnsdall Park, there at the corner of Hollywood and Vermont. That great vision that Aileen Barnsdall had to create not only a home with the greatest from the greatest architect of that time, perhaps maybe of all time, Frank Lloyd Wright, but also, and there's applause for Frank. Frank always gets the applause. But also to let that park be something that was dedicated to the public, to all of us, and now it's owned by all of us here in Los Angeles. But Hollyhock House, which had been so badly damaged in the earthquake in 1994, and through just the years of neglect and us falling short in our obligation that Ms. Barnsdall laid forth for us to preserve that space, we've had to rely not only on leadership of many of you around this horseshoe, but really of the individuals out there who literally through a labor of their own love have been able to bring back that incredible jewel in the crown of Barnsdall Park. He gave funds for the restoration of the reading alcove in the Hollyhock House, including buying the original table and duplicating the original chair. He was president of the Hollyhock House for 4 years and is currently the chairman of the Ennis House Foundation, and has helped restore the South Seas House, a member of the West Adams Historical Association, and the founder of the Leadership Circle and Silent Auction Chair for the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy. So you can see that Mr. Leary has taken preservation very seriously. He has lived a life devoted to making sure that all of us know the history and the heritage that we have here in Los Angeles, that we not only recognize that we celebrate it, and that we keep that alive. Many people think the past is just frozen in time. Robert Leary shows us that there is a present to that history, that there is a future to that history as well. And just before we present the certificate to him, I'd like to ask Scott Crawford to say a couple words, and then we will congratulate and hear from Robert himself. Scott?
Hi, I'm Scott Crawford. I'm president of the Friends of Hollyhock House, and I have been since 1999. When I took over that role, a standard had been set for me that I had to achieve or surpass. Robert set that standard, and he continues to do it. He's now the chairperson of the Ennis House Foundation, and he's busy trying to save that house. So it's with great pleasure that I present Robert Leary.
Well, let's give him a round of applause as we give this certificate of appreciation to Robert Leary. Thank you for your dedication to historic preservation and your contribution to the restoration of the Hollyhock House.
Thank you very much. I want to express my gratitude, and it's an honor to stand in front of you today, and thank you all for being a part of the restoration of not only Barnstable Park, but Hollyhock House, and now the Ennis House, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. Personal gratitude and thanks to the Councilman Garcetti, and of course Scott Crawford and Teddy Shattuck and the Friends of Hollyhock House. And thank you very much. I'm quite honored.
Appreciate it. And
Thank you. And Mr.
Mr.
Labange would like
I'm sure
to
wants to add a couple.
Salute each and every one of you, but especially you. The Hollyhock House is a jewel in our city of Los Angeles. I know I'm benefited greatly from a lot of momentum that took place to restore the observatory just up the road, and hopefully good winds will flow so all good could happen at Barnstable to make Ann smile a lot and do that beautiful job in making it just a magnet, because it's such a wonderful, wonderful place. So thank you so much, Mr. Garcetti. Thank you for honoring this very special person and these very special people. And I know they got a big event coming next week, too.
That's right. You want to say with the event real quick? You want to make a pitch or something?
Sure.
Come on, tell me.
You know, starting Saturday, the Frank Lloyd Wright Conservancy Conference is happening here in Los Angeles, and we're celebrating it. The city is celebrating it with ArchiFest, which is an architectural festival here. We have 12 different museums doing architectural shows. We have 14 different architectural groups showing off their parts of the city, and we have 6 different performance pieces. So we hope you'll support ArchiFest.
The website is?
SaveRight.org.
All right. Thank you very much, and thank you again, Robert, for your great leadership. Thank you very much, Madam President. I have one other presentation. I'd like to invite Steve Simon and some other friends that are here today to make a presentation here to commemorate, come on over, to commemorate and to mark the campaign to end AIDS. The campaign here in Los Angeles joins with a campaign worldwide. But here in Los Angeles County, I think we know the sobering statistics of 19,700 individuals who are living with AIDS. And 56% of those individuals, about 10,000, almost 11,000 individuals live right here in Los Angeles City. And we make up about a third of the population of the county, but about half of those AIDS cases countywide. The Campaign to End AIDS is a group of people who are living with HIV/AIDS, and individuals, coalitions, and organizations who are their allies, all united in action to demand a more urgent and effective response to end this pandemic and to help people who are living with HIV and AIDS. Together they want to ensure a few different things. The reauthorization of the Ryan White CARE Act by Congress this year for comprehensive treatment and care across the nation, insisting that the prevention efforts also educate youth by providing comprehensive sex education both here and abroad. And together they are attempting to out HIV into the forefront of the national effort to save Medicaid as well. Together they're demanding progress as well in AIDS research. The dollars and the will continue to be driven there. Together they will get care, treatment, and support to people with HIV across the nation and across the world. And they also demand the end of the epidemic, knowing that that involves a world where people can access effective treatments, prevention methods, and supportive services. So this campaign needs people from across issues, across geographical areas to join together in order to move forward in the right direction in the fight against AIDS, and needs people to understand the links between communities that are affected not just here in the U.S. but throughout the world. this campaign literally requires the efforts of everybody, and I know we've had people who have done so much, like Councilmember Wendy Gruhl, who when the first AIDS office was opened here in Los Angeles was an integral part of that. I know Councilmember Parks has been a great voice in the African American community, getting the word out to prevent the spread of AIDS, as so many others of you have done with your individual offices, and the great chair of our Arts, Parks, Health Aging Committee as well, Mr. Tom LeBon. So with that, I'd like to turn this microphone over to Steve Simon, and to present this on behalf of myself, Mr. Padilla, Mr. LeBonge, to resolve. This is a resolution after all, but this hopefully will strengthen our own resolve in our own campaign here to end AIDS. Steve Simon, thank you very much for your leadership, and here is the commemoration of that.
Thank you, Mr. Councilmember. In 30 seconds or less, let me just remind you, we've crossed the million mark in terms of HIV infections in the United States. The number is probably closer to 1.2 million. Let me remind you that in terms of numbers, and by numbers we mean people's lives, in terms of numbers, the AIDS epidemic eclipses natural disasters and terrorism in the United States. And let me also remind you that second only to New York, Los Angeles has the most HIV infections in the United States. We have to keep it on the forefront of our minds, and I'd like to thank the Campaign to End AIDS for their efforts to make sure we keep it on the forefront of the minds of our folks in Washington. That said, I'd like to ask Dr. Walt Centerfit to join us. He is the national co-chair of the Campaign to End AIDS and a very long-term survivor of the epidemic.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councilman Garcetti, Councilman LeBonge, Councilwoman Gruhl, and the whole council. On behalf of the other 54,999 people living with HIV and AIDS in LA County, I want to thank the City of Los Angeles not only for this recognition and support of this voluntary mobilization to increase the urgency and depth of the nation's response to AIDS, but also for LA's particular and the City Council's particular support of us for the last 20 years. The city took the lead before the county actually got on board and has used its limited funds and the fact that it's not primarily responsible for health care to leverage and to be out on front and point on spearheading prevention, such as needle exchange, such as prevention for gay men with crystal meth and HIV, such as in the African American community, African American women and men, and the money that you give here has leveraged a much larger response that the county and the federal government have eventually come on board about. I'm here because I'm part of the national mobilization to demand a more urgent response, to show that we can do it, and to show that our government cannot actually just put up with AIDS, but can end it. We have the tools if we use them. I'm here and alive because of research and medications that have enabled me to live for 20 years, that enable me to still work today, that enable me, instead of dying, to go back and finish my PhD and become a scientist helping to work for a cure. But it's a shame and a crime that there's 250,000 of my fellow people with HIV who do not have access to care and medication and regular treatment even here in this country. I will not rest, and the people in this campaign will not rest, until everybody from the far reaches of LA County to the far reaches of Zimbabwe to the far reaches of Siberia are able to benefit from the science, from the knowledge that we spend money for prevention based on science, not politics, that we give care to everyone, that we end stigma so that people can come out, as Richard and I are, and say, you can live well with HIV, you can take responsibility to make sure that nobody else is infected, and we can end the poverty, discrimination, and racism that are the conditions in which the AIDS epidemic festers and the pandemic festers worldwide. We're leaving on a bus here next Saturday. We're driving 2 weeks across the country to Washington together with 10 other caravans around the country and 500 people walking from New York City to Washington. We're going to be there for 4 days in November talking to people in Congress, talking to representatives of the churches, and we will not stop until we have ended AIDS. Thanks for your support.
Tom, take it home.
My name is Richard Eastman. I'm a former HIV commissioner for the County of Los Angeles. In 1994, I had a cold that wouldn't go away. I had 22 T cells, and I almost died from AIDS. I'm standing here 12 years later, living with AIDS. And I'm doing quite well because I'm a research guy. Many of you know I fight for controversial things like medical marijuana and needle exchange, but I'm standing here today as a research guy because I'm on a new medicine called TMC 114. It doesn't have a name yet. It's made by a major American pharmaceutical company, but for the first time in 12 years, I'm undetectable. That means they can't find the virus in my blood, and I have almost 300 T cells, and I'm going to be going to Washington, D.C. to fight this administration that sends more money to kill people in Iraq than to support people living with HIV and AIDS in this country. I was the homeless commissioner. We need more homes for people living with HIV. We need more access to these medications. God bless you, and thank you, the City Council, for honoring us for the campaign to end AIDS. Thank you.
Let me recognize Mr. Rosendahl at this time.
Gentlemen, could you get closer to the mic so I can see you as well? I rise to this issue for lots of reasons. First, for those who do know me, know as an openly gay man, the genocide of my people that took place from the mid-'80s to the mid-'90s will always be with me. My first partner of 14 years, Christopher Lee Blauman, died of AIDS in January of '95. And all my friends around me, many of them died. They suffered through two things. One, coming out of the closet, which was not acceptable to be a homosexual in America, even though it isn't a choice or a preference. It's another form of nature, another form of God's magnificence. And secondly, the epidemic is worldwide. Millions of people have died in the last few years, and now our president talks about a bird flu that might catch on, and the whole world is in emergency sessions over a bird flu, while millions of people are dying in sub-Saharan Africa every day, and people in India and Southeast Asia are contacting this disease. So from a world epidemic, we are in one. Millions of people are dying, and the world cannot close its eyes on such a dramatic disaster. Our drug companies in this country, instead of giving free drugs, which they should, are participating in this genocide by the drugs not reaching these people around the planet. And as for the United States, as we all know, women of color are getting AIDS more than any other group. And part of that is because of the lack of real awareness of men-to-men sex that takes place in our prison systems, or the denial of any kind of other sex that some churches preach. So we have to shine the light on that issue as well. And I applaud you all for shining the light on the issue here before the City Council. God bless you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Thank you. What a tremendous, simple word, campaign to end AIDS. And I know we all join in that. I thank you. I know this Sunday is the AIDS Walk, which is another awareness that we're going to have, and I know many of us will be out there. Mr. President, members, on behalf of Mr. Garcetti, we thank you and these distinguished gentlemen for being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Here we go. Picture.
Thank you very much, Council Members Garcetti and Labange. Colleagues, I believe this concludes presentations for today's meeting. And yes, there are actually some items we need to vote on today. So, Mr. Clerk, have we formally called the roll?
No, we have not.
Please call the roll.
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruel, Han, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weisstein, Padilla, 11 members present and a quorum. Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The council is officially in session. First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Reyes moves, Ms. Perry seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Labange moves, and Mr. Cardenas seconds.
Mr. President, do you wish to take public comment at this time?
Let's actually dispense with consent to items from the agenda first, please.
On the regular agenda, items 1 through 7 are street lighting district items, notice for public hearing. Council should continue the hearings and ordinances to November 4th.
Okay, we do have cards on items 3 and 4. Melrose, Larry Green, 3 and 4. Oh, the special meeting. Okay. So then we have items 1 through 7. Colleagues, I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on these matters. Public hearings are open, and unless there's an objection, continue to November 4th. Next items, please.
Items 8 through 34, items for which public hearings have been held. Committee reports have been distributed on items 16 and 18 through 21.
Members 8 through 34 now before us. Public hearings have been held on these items in committee. A motion would be required to reopen the public hearings Do we have any requests for specials? Mr. Labange?
10 continued for 2 weeks, Mr. President.
Okay. Any objection, colleagues, to continuing item 10 for 2 weeks? Seeing none, so ordered. Mr. Cardenas?
Special 8 and 9.
8 and 9 calls special by Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Garcetti?
19, please, Mr. President.
Mr. Garcetti calls 19 special. Any other specials, colleagues, on items 8 through 34? Seeing none, we should also, I believe, call item 20 special and 24. And if there's no other requests for specials, then Mr. Clerk, please open the roll on the balance of the items. I'm sorry, before we close the roll, item 18 as well. 18. Let's now close the roll on the balance of the items and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Items 35 through 41 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Members, items 35 through 41 now before us, and I do have a card on item 37 and item 38. We'll call those special to hear from members of the public. On the balance of the items, I do not have speaker cards. Public hearings are open and closed. Requests for specials on these items? 35, 36, 39, 40, and 41. Seeing none, let's open the roll on those items, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved. Next item, please.
On the continuation agenda, item 42 is an item for which public hearing has been held.
Members, item 42 now before us. Members of the council wishing to call this item special. Mr. Weiss?
Mr. President, I thought I'd continue this for 2 weeks. On Wednesday, there must have been some mix-up. I'd like to continue this for a couple weeks.
Sure. Another week and a half or so, which would be October 26th. 2 weeks from today is October 28th. Any objection to continuing this item? Seeing none. Let's at this point temporarily recess the regular meeting agenda. And Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll on the special meeting?
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruel, Han, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Padilla. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The special meeting is now in session. First order of business, please.
Items 1 and 2 are items for which public hearings have been held. Item 1 has been submitted without recommendation, and I do believe there is an amending motion or substitute motion that is being drafted right now.
Okay.
So if you'd like to take that now, we can do the amending motion, or we can hold it, have it special.
We could do the amending motion if it's not going to take too much discussion.
It should not.
Okay. Has the amending motion been circulated?
Yes, it's actually a substitute motion that is before you. And colleagues, we would just need to take 2 votes. The first vote being, Mr. Attorney, am I 3 votes? Okay, so you will correct me with the substitute. Okay, first vote, Mr. Stewart Attorney, would be the substitute motion. The second vote would be relative to it designating it an RS. And the third vote would be asking the Deputy Director to sign off on the new ordinance, to come up now, to sign off on the new ordinance on behalf of the Planning Commission and to adopt it.
Okay. Well, let's take those series of votes on item number 1.
Mr. President, the motions have not been circulated as of yet.
Okay, well then let's hold them on the desk.
So when it comes, we all know what we'll be able to do then, the 3
okay.
votes. Thank you.
Leaving item number 2 of the special agenda before us. Members wishing to speak on item 2 of the special agenda? Seeing none. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, that is approved. Next items.
Items 3 and 4 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration, and there is an amending motion that has been circulated on item 3.
Okay, we have an amending motion, item 3. We also have a speaker card on these items, so we'll call these special to hear from members of the public. Let's at this point continue the special meeting agenda items back to the regular meeting. Adjourn the special meeting, return it to the regular meeting. Mr. Clerk, first item called special, please.
This is item 8 by Councilmember Cardenas.
Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much. We can take up item 8 and 9 together. Council members, the Department of Water and Power embarked on a renewable portfolio standard. That's a fancy way of saying that they're making a commitment to get to 20% clean energy by 2017. It sounds like it's far away. It is and it isn't. But what was far away up until 2 years ago was a plan on how to get there. The state of California required for us to look into that ourselves. They left us to our own designs, and when I was in the state legislature, I believed that the Department of Water and Power was going to do that. But a couple of years later, when I got here to the council, I realized that they hadn't gone far enough. So when I asked to be the chairman of the Commerce, Energy, and Natural Resources Committee, Councilmember Padilla said that he had been working on it, and I promised him that I would continue to work on it and bring it to fruition. And I want to thank the department for finally bringing that together and to making sure that we do have that. What we have here today are two small contracts, but I wanted to highlight them and remind the people of Los Angeles, also the people of California, that we are moving in the right direction. We're looking forward to signing bigger contracts. We're looking forward to getting them cited. We're looking forward to seeing clean energy. We're looking forward to being a leader throughout the country and throughout the world on how we can actually provide reliable, cost-effective power, yet at the same time protect the environment. And the backdrop of that is we've tried to get away from burning coal for our energy. For example, many of our plants were converted to natural gas plants. That in itself is not the cleanest way to provide energy, yet at the same time it provided its own problems as well, as we've seen the gas prices go up and as much as double in a short period of time. So we constantly have to find solutions. We constantly have to figure out how we can provide energy so that the lights are on when Angelinos need them, so that the lights are on when businesses want to be productive and effective, and that's what we need to do with this department. These two small contracts are an example of how we're going to do that into the future, only we're going to do it cleaner. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to point that out to you. These are two small contracts on this journey, and we're going to have many, many more to come.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Other members wishing to speak on item number 8? Seeing none, then let's open the roll on this item.
Actually, items 8 and 9.
8 and 9 concurrently. Okay, open the roll, please. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, those are ordinances and carry over for a second reading. Next items, please.
Item 18 was called special by Councilmember Padilla.
Well, let's jump to item 19.
Item 19 was called special by Councilmember Garcetti.
Recognize Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much. Speaking over here from Mr. Smith's chair. Colleagues, I rise in support of this today. This is asking us to take a position on upcoming Proposition 73. There are so many reasons why I would ask you to oppose this, but first and foremost for the young people that we represent, for their safety, for their health, and for the health and safety of our communities. Just on the substance, when you look at teen safety, if this proposition would pass on parental notification, as some have called it, the majority of teenage girls who would be affected would be put in harm's way. Now, the majority of teenage girls right now do talk to their parents about abortion, but those who are victims of abuse, rape, or incest cannot talk to their parents, and probably with good reason. Even girls from healthy families do not always feel comfortable about talking to their parents. We already know of one girl in Indiana who has died from a back alley abortion as a result of a similar law, and we can't have that happen here. So I don't think that we want to enact a law here in California that might push teenage girls to obtain back alley abortions or face abuse at home. Secondly, teen pregnancy rates, there's good news. I recently was in Hollywood where a Hollywood teen pregnancy program actually reduced pregnancies in the Hollywood area in a concentrated way by over 60%. That's staggering. And here in California, the rates have been decreasing for years. But this would set us back. The law would make it harder for teenagers whose parents support their choice to get an abortion, because the law could have the effect of causing some abortion clinics to close out for fear of lawsuits and increased costs. We want families to talk. We want those conversations to happen. A recent poll showed that 66% of teenage girls talk to their parents before they do obtain an abortion. But conversations in the home should not be regulated by the state. That is something that the state should get out of the way. Family relationships are about families, and those who have the greatest wisdom know already what to do there. The abortion debate, this also unnecessarily and politically inserts itself into, because Proposition 73 would establish language in the state constitution defining a fetus as an unborn child. This is controversial. Some people believe that and some people don't. But out of respect, it is not defined one way or the other, and this would enshrine it in one direction. This proposition is not about helping teenagers or their families. It's about chipping away at Roe versus Wade by taking away the right of choice for the most vulnerable women, teenage girls. If you want to just go through the folks that are opposing this, the California Medical Association, the California Nurses Association, Planned Parenthood, California Juvenile Court judges, Senator Barbara Boxer, State Treasurer Phil Angelides. Here locally, we've had neighborhood councils that have taken up positions against this. The Silver Lake Neighborhood Council most recently, and I thank them for their activism. So I would urge you today that we stand on record, that we stand for family conversations, we stand for the health of all girls in Los Angeles, but that we do that the right way, not have the state regulate family relationships, not set us back in terms of teen pregnancies, and not turn back the clock on the health care of girls and women. So I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Councilmember Weiss, followed by Councilmember Hahn, Zine, which is, I think, Mr. Padilla, and Rosendahl.
Thank you, Madam President. And there are a number. This measure is going to pass unanimously, and it's clear that almost all of us want to speak on it. So I'll be brief, but it is important to note that the second largest city in the country, the largest city in the state, is going to go on record against this initiative. I was troubled when I read at least the first page of that Steve Lopez column the other week about this measure, where he said he could understand why people would, at least at first blush, want to support something like this. You had to read all the way to the bottom of the column before you got to his conclusion that it was a bad idea. But I likewise have the concern that many people are going to take a look at this initiative, and on first glance, it's going to make sense to them. For the reasons that Mr. Garcetti so eloquently just laid out, this is something that requires a second glance, and I hope that our action today causes enough people in the city and the state to give this measure the reflection that it deserves and conclude that it is very much the wrong thing to do.
Thank you. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, and I'm proud of our city for going on record opposing this. I thought a letter to the editor in the LA Times this morning by a doctor really put it in perspective. Your teenage daughter, brought up in a loving environment, will seek your support if she needs an abortion. She will be frightened because she knows you will be angry and disappointed, but she can be persuaded to inform her parents. I have seen this girl in my pediatric office many times. However, there is another teenager in my office. You have not noticed her. She has been raped. Her parents will beat or possibly kill her for bringing shame upon the family. It is for her sake that we must oppose Proposition 73.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, as Mr. Weiss said, I think everybody would love to express their thoughts on this. I too rise in support of the resolution, which is to oppose this ballot measure. To me, I'm driven by two things. One is letters like what Ms. Hahn just read and what Mr. Garcetti pointed out. If you look at what nurses are saying about this measure, if you look at what doctors are saying about this measure, if you look at what most healthcare professionals are saying about this measure, they're saying it is bad policy. From a medical standpoint, this is dangerous, and that, above all, should be a reason to oppose this measure. It's also not lost on me that in the last few months, this country, given to Supreme Court justice vacancies and the debates about the successors and appointments to the Supreme Court, has revisited the Roe v. Wade discussion like we haven't since Roe v. Wade itself. The discussion is now back on the front burner. Now more than ever, we need to recommit ourselves to the law of the land and not take any steps backwards or any perceived steps backwards when it comes to choice and when it comes to a woman's right to choose her own will for her own body. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. Mr. Rosendahl.
Yeah, this is not a light matter, obviously, for any of us around the horseshoe, and I'm appreciative of my colleagues' comments. Not every family is a functioning, positive experience for everybody involved. Half of our families end up in divorce, and within our families we do have domestic violence, we have alcohol and drug abuse, we have abuse of children. This was brought to my attention by Jackie Guthrie, Arlo Guthrie's wife, and their 4 children, when I was struggling with this issue about life and morality. And she told me of a young teenage girl that committed suicide rather than tell her parents. She also told me of another young girl that didn't know what to do and tried to abort herself and found herself in very serious health issues. So for me, it's a question of a young woman and her ability to deal with the world around her and giving her options, be it not the parents or somebody else, but the ability to deal with it in her way, in a safe way. And that's why I strongly come out against this proposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl, and was pleased to second this motion today, and I think our colleagues have been very articulate in their opposition to this motion. We do have speaker cards today, so I'd like to call up, we have 3 speaker cards, Mary Jane Waggle, Curran Worf, and Lisa Chandler.
Council members, I am so honored to be able to speak before you and thank you for your support for a no on Proposition 73 stance. I'm Mary Jane Wagley. I'm the president and CEO of Planned Parenthood Los Angeles, and it makes me very proud to know that Los Angeles will take this stand on behalf of teens and all of our daughters. You've all eloquently talked about the reasons why this is so important. I just want to add to that by saying that in states where parental notification laws have been passed, the interesting thing is that the number of teens that talk to their parents is no higher than it is in the study that was quoted by Councilman Garcetti. It's still in the mid-60%. What happens is that teens go out of state for abortions, teens seek unsafe abortions from unlicensed medical providers, and they exist here in California and here in Los Angeles, and teens try to self-abort. That's not what we want to have happen to our teens in California, and this is absolutely the right thing to do. It makes such a difference that you take this strong public stand to persuade voters to think twice before they vote on this matter, and I thank you very much. Planned Parenthood believes that it's extremely important for families to talk to their teens and their young children, actually, about their values, about relationships and sexuality. But a law is not going to make that happen. What will make a difference is to support comprehensive sex education in the schools and to support programs that help parents feel comfortable talking to their teens. So I thank you very much, and I have buttons here that say no on Proposition 73 for all of you, and I hope you will wear them, and whenever anybody asks you what Proposition 73 is, you will be as eloquent in persuading them to oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jane. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name's Curran Worf. I'm a pediatrician, actually, and a specialist in adolescent medicine. I also am chair of the Adolescent Health Committee of the American Academy of Pediatrics and a fellow of the Society for Adolescent Medicine. So I want to thank you for, and particularly thank Council members Garcetti, Weiss, Gruhl, and the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council for bringing this forward. And I'm incredibly impressed by the unanimity of opinion. I'm actually a neighbor of Tom LaBonge. I'm not going to repeat all the arguments. I think they've been articulated very well here, and I appreciate there seems to be consensus about this, so I don't want to use your time with that. But I do want to say that from a medical standpoint, the American Academy of Pediatrics, Society of Adolescent Medicine, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, the California Medical Association, the California Nurses Association all oppose mandatory parental notification, and have found this to be a very negative policy. There are predictable medical consequences for young people in that those young people who do get abortions will get later abortions rather than earlier abortions. When you talk to adolescents about the most important thing that they find they want in a doctor, what they want is respect for confidentiality. And this is developmentally appropriate, as those of us who are parents of adolescents know that kids want more privacy as they go through their adolescence. So when word gets out to teens that if they disclose to their doctor that they're pregnant and interested in a termination, that the doctor is going to be required to tell their parents, it's not hard to figure out that they're not going to go to their doctor. And that this will delay not only prenatal care, but also, not only termination, but also prenatal care. As a pediatrician, much of my time is spent improving family communication, and the idea that that physicians somehow are conspiring to keep abortion secret from parents is a myth, in fact. But as was said here, there are many families in which young people, for a variety of reasons, cannot really talk openly about their reproductive health with their parents. Anyway, it just, to me, it is just shocking, and I just cannot imagine being in a situation with a young person frightened, disclosing a pregnancy, coming out of a home which parents may have, who knows what, mental illness, alcoholism, or even parents that are reasonably healthy, being forced by some legislature to notify parents against the minor's will. So anyway, I want to thank you for your time, and I very much appreciate your stance on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lisa Chandler, and I am with the Commission on the Status of Women from Los Angeles City. I am one of the facilitators for the YWARP program, and because this measure is going to be affecting teens, and specifically teen girls, I wanted to be able to come today and do a little presentation about how the Commission stance is. In September, the Commission actually unanimously voted to oppose Proposition 73. In Section 4 of our legislative policy, the statement is that the Commission will support legislation which would ensure freedom of choice for all women, including but not limited to equal access for health care services. We believe that Prop 73 erodes that freedom and is a direct opposition of our legislative statement as it relates to women and girls. While the Commission agrees that parents rightfully want to be involved in their teenagers' lives, we know that good family communication cannot be imposed by the government. And the reality is that not all teenage girls feel safe going to their parents. The Commission's YWAR program works with teen females who deal with poverty, sexual assault, and violence. Statistics have shown that the abuse experienced by a large percentage of women and girls come from their own families. The young women in this program prioritize confidentiality above all else in matters when it comes to their reproductive health. If they are forced to tell their parents about their personal reproductive information, they are more likely to cease getting the help that they need. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, that's our last speaker. The item is now before us. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
That item has been approved in opposition. Thank you very much. Our next order of business.
Item 18 was called special by Councilmember Padilla.
I'm sorry, before Mr. Padilla speaks, Mr. Labange had a quick introduction.
Right as we did our conclusion of our very special presentations this morning, my great friend from Auckland, New Zealand arrived late. This is Peter Drummond. He has a special message. As you know, Auckland is a sister city of Los Angeles, and he has a special message from the mayor. Please welcome Peter Drummond.
Thank you, Councillor Labange. Mr. President, fellow councilmen, women, it's my pleasure on behalf of Mayor Dick Hubbard of Auckland, New Zealand, New Zealand's largest city, to bring his warm greetings to you. He would like to extend a welcome to Mr. President, the Mayor and council members and officials. If you'd like to visit New Zealand, we'll greet you there with welcome arms. We've been looking after some vehicles you sent down to us for raising money for children, and they've been well looked after, and they're bringing a lot of enjoyment to the people of Auckland. Thank you very much. They're old fire trucks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Thank you.
members, thank you. Let's give a hand for Auckland, New Zealand, and Peter Drummond and his lovely wife right there.
Thank you. We're, Mr. Clerk, on item 18, and Mr. Padilla called that special.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, another resolution opposing another critical ballot measure slated for this November's special election. Before I offer my remarks, colleagues, I move that we reopen the public hearing. I think there's a couple of speaker cards. I know time is of the essence, maybe 1 minute each for people who are here to speak on item 18, if you want to come forward.
Thank you, Mr. President. David Hernandez and Mike McCosker.
Good morning. That means I have to do a lot of chopping here, okay? Good morning, Madam President Pro Tem and Mr. President, members of the City Council. My name is David Hernandez, and I've been a teacher for 25 years and grew up in Pacoima and a proud graduate of San Fernando High School. No one chooses to become a teacher because he or she wants to engage in politics. We choose to teach because we care about our kids and our future. But when you care about the kind of education our kids receive, you have to stand up with when politicians make bad choices. Proposition 75 really isn't about union members or their rights. It's about who has a voice in public policy in California. And when the real proponents of this measure, Governor Schwarzenegger and his corporate supporters, are candid about Proposition 75, they really readily admit this. Proposition 75 only targets public employees, yet leaves other organizations, including corporate special interests, untouched. The governor and his supporters wish to diminish the power of workers in the public policy debate. And even though the corporation outspends unions 24-1 on political issues, according to the nonpartisan Center for Responsive Politics, they want their voice to be the only voice that is heard in Sacramento. As an educator, it is really important for me to be able to stand up and speak. It's very difficult for me to be able to have someone try to silence my voice when my organization has a procedure that allows that to happen. I know that this is a very tough situation that everyone is having to face, but let's not water down the process of public voice in California. I urge you to take a no position on Proposition 75. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. McCosker? No. Okay. He was here in opposition as well.
Let the record reflect that Mike McCosker, on behalf of the United Firefighters of Los Angeles City, is also here in support of the resolution to oppose Proposition 75. Colleagues, the City Council has taken previous policy positions consistent with what we're asking here today. You'll all recall just a few years ago there was a proposition called 226 that sought to achieve what Proposition 75 is seeking to achieve, but for all labor unions. The only difference between 226 and Proposition 75 today is that 75 is only targeting the public sector union members, aka the hardworking city employees, like our police officers, like our firefighters, like our teachers, like our librarians, like all the hardworking men and women who help us deliver the resources and services to our constituents. It's taken away their voice, it's taken away their political voice, it's bad policy, and I urge the City of Los Angeles to continue its policy position and stand together with our city family in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. Mr. Rosendahl, followed by Mr. Garcetti.
Indeed, I rise on this issue. We'll talk from two levels on this. First of all, having been an executive in the private sector for 22 years, and in my last reign of executive power, I had 2,700 employees that reported to me. The union, which is the union for cable, was the CWA. The industry does whatever it can to either decertify the union or see that the union doesn't come into place. The way our system of government and our system of economics and our capitalist system work, unless you have a strong union movement and you get to the table with corporate America and bargain for a piece of the pie, you're just going to get a sliver of the pie. We have noticed America, the rich are getting richer and the working and middle class are being pushed to the edges. This is a serious matter in our country. What Prop 75 does is take away the union's muscle to deliver within the political process. Corporate America doesn't go to its stockholders and say, can we give money to this or that? They delegate it to the board of directors of that corporation, and they do what they want. 8-to-1 more money than the unions, 9-to-1 more money than the unions, and it's a huge issue. If this passes, the union movement in California will ripple across America and will be more threatened than it's ever been before. It's already threatened. Only 10% of the people are part of the union movement, you know. So people need to understand, if you want a strong middle class and you want a strong America, we have to vote no for Prop 75.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your eloquent words, Mr. Rosendahl. Appreciate them, and thank you, Mr. Padilla, for your words as well, for putting forward a very strong front here. I was proud to join with Mr. Zine to introduce this, and I appreciate the testimony of the folks that were here, because we do have to sometimes stand up for what we believe in, and also do it in a way that says that the right of assembly, which was one of the main 3 rights that were focused on by our founding fathers in this country, actually has a living and a real existence, that the right of people to assemble, to come together, and to congregate into groups that then can advocate is the heart of a democracy. It's not just about individuals, it's also about the strengths of like-minded individuals being able to come together as one. The reason why this is important, too, is just what Mr. Rosendahl pointed out. If you can just expand very briefly on it, you know, companies don't ask their employees who they're giving to politically, and it's the money that they help generate. They don't ask their shareholders either. And this just balances the playing field. It's very easy to parody business as big business. I think that's wrong to do, just as it's wrong to say that labor is big labor. These are individuals, human beings who make their decisions about where and how they should have political decisions and advocacy that represents them be done. And if this was taken away, it would cut to the heart. We would see a very different state. It is the reality that political campaigns rely on television time, and he who has the most money can dominate the debate. And if we don't have a fair debate, where right now, I feel good because I get to hear 2 sides of an issue. But if this went through, we would no longer hear 2 sides of the issue. And even if you're somebody who is against unions sometimes or doesn't vote with them, I bet you appreciate hearing them, because sometimes you actually do agree with them. And the moment that a voice is drowned out is the moment that we don't have a democracy.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. The item is now before us. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
That item has been approved in opposition. The next order of business, Mr. Clerk.
Item 20 was called special by Councilmember Padilla.
Councilmember Padilla. If not, what is the next order of business? 21 was also called by Mr. Padilla. Okay. Yes. We'll go to the next items, I think, which is items 37 and 38. We had cards from Mr. Mort Allen.
Good morning. This is kind of technical. I don't know if this is possible, if you can either table this for 2 weeks or to add into it. Let me explain to you. The Information Technology and General Services Committee finally has a chairman that is a genius in the shopping center industry, knows it very well. And we were all down at the convention and we spoke to a lot of developers about doing a public-private rebuilding of the LA Mall. And in fact, we have a meeting this afternoon with one of the biggest developers in the country, very interested. And I believe the mall will get rebuilt as a lifestyle center where we get moved upstairs to street level and become a center point for the 100,000 people that work and live downtown. And I'd hate to see it encumbered by these leases that will cost maybe $1 million to cancel. So if it's possible to either add a clause in the lease that if it does get redeveloped, they would be terminated with so much notice, or postpone it, I think it would be save the city a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Ms. Hahn, did you want to comment on this?
I did. Thank you. Please don't use the word genius about myself, but I do. A lot of people don't realize this. I do have a shopping center background. And as the chair of this new committee I just found myself on, I realized one of the things under my purview is the LA Mall. And I have always, since I've been here in downtown Los Angeles, sort of groaned when it's lunchtime, because it seems like our choices at the LA Mall are just not that great. And my sense is, besides just the city employees, who I think deserve a much more exciting, vibrant, better planned mall, we now have an entire downtown urban living crowd 24/7 that could have access to our LA Mall. It's ridiculous, in my opinion, that we have a mall that has 9 to 5, and many of the major chains aren't interested because they're not interested in just the lunch crowd. So I do, for the first time, have the opportunity to take a comprehensive look at our LA Mall and look at the possibility of going outside our city government to find out who else is out there that can actually run the mall, can lease the mall. I think government does a lot of things well. I don't necessarily think we run malls well. And so I think this is opportunity. Unfortunately, we have these 2 leases on our council agenda today that have been negotiated before me. And so I'm struggling as well. Do we okay these leases for 5 years when we might have an opportunity to do something different? Or do we go ahead and okay these leases with maybe a sentence? And that's what I'm going to ask for, is that we put a sentence in there. I know down at the Port of Los Angeles, when we enter into leases lately, we've been putting a paragraph in there about our waterfront development. And in fact, if we need to relocate or need to move or need to change something because of what we're doing on the waterfront, then I don't want the port to enter into leases that are unchangeable or untweakable. So Reggie, maybe you could come to the table and let me know, can I insert in these leases some sentence about the possibility that we may be doing a master plan at the mall and we might have to change something?
Yes, Reginald Jones Sawyer, Director of Asset Management. Council Member Hahn, yes, we'll consult with the city attorney.
Okay.
And we'll come up with some language that in the event that this council and the mayor does approve a plan that is far more ranging than what we have now, that basically redoes them all in some kind of comprehensive way, that we'll be able to relocate the shops in whatever manner we see.
Do we need to hold this
best.
on the table for a week while we come up with that
I
language?
think we can move with hopefully we can move with the understanding that we'll include that in the lease.
Yeah.
Mr. City Attorney?
Yeah, the agenda description says authorize GSD to negotiate and execute, so you could
So
incorporate
negotiate.
that into your negotiations.
Correct.
Okay, so we're okay approving this today with the confidence that as part of your negotiation and execution, you will have a sentence in there that speaks to this overall master plan of the mall.
Yes, we will. We'll run it by you also.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Thank you. So that item is now before us as verbally amended, colleagues, both 37 and 38. So, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Those items have been approved as amended. Let's go back to item number 20. Councilmember Padilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, just want to, again, as with the others, on behalf of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, Mr. Zine isn't here. He's been acting chair of the committee, but I'm on the committee. Rise and ask you to support the resolution before us, which is to oppose Proposition 77. This is a measure on this November ballot that seeks to change the redistricting process at the state level. And while there's a lot of opinions as to what may be working or not working with the current redistricting process, I can tell you that this Proposition 77 is certainly not the solution. Here in Los Angeles, we have a unique perspective because we have changed our redistricting process. We do establish a commission that redraws the boundaries for city council seats, for school district seats. Unlike it's been done in years past, we tried it in the year 2002 for the first time. But it still comes back through the council for final approvals, number one, significant difference with what Proposition 77 seeks to do. Second, the commission is made up of just a diverse group as the city council because we all get to appoint to that group. Proposition 77 speaks to this concept of a panel of retired judges. Well, people who know redistricting know that it is 99% driven by the Voting Rights Act at the federal level. It's federal law. It's not something that can easily be tinkered with. This panel of retired judges, while it may sound good, also raises red flags when you look at who makes up panels of retired judges or retired judges in California. It may well be reflective of California's past. It certainly isn't demographically and otherwise representative of California today, even less so California as to where we're going. So because I think it's a bad fix, it's bad policy, let's vote no on the measure, vote yes on this resolution, and keep working in future legislative sessions in Sacramento to improve on the redistricting process.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. Mr. Rosendahl.
Well, this is an interesting one, and those of you who have seen my television show in the past, I did more around elections than anybody I know in the state, put all the propositions there, moderated all the discussions so we could empower the people so they could intelligently go vote on these issues. Well, this is one where I'm very conflicted. First of all, I think the congressional districts and the Assembly and State Senate districts are a disaster. This is what you call Incumbent Protection Act. It takes away the democracy from the people. And unless you're a Democrat in a Democrat district or a Republican in a Republican district, your vote doesn't count beyond the primary. We've seen no shift in the House of Representatives. 53 seats, 53 get elected. Now, these are Republicans, these are Democrats. I am frustrated, like most Americans, the way the congressional districts, the Assembly, and the Senate districts are drawn up. We need a better approach. It is broken. And I don't like Incumbent Protection Acts. I'm a 60-year-old guy, and if I make it through these 4 years, I'm grateful. If I run a second term, God bless the world and all that. It's not about me. It's about the people participating in the political process. But I'm going to vote no on 77. And I'm going to vote no, frankly, because this is not the right way to do it. We need to create a citizens commission, involve the people in the process, be open, be transparent. Not what we just did, where they got behind computers, figured out who had the best this and that. Republicans got safe seats, Democrats got safe seats. This is what's wrong with America today. We really have to take the dysfunctional government and make it functional. So let's put something together in the future that is a commission of the people, that clearly involves the people in the discussion, and let's make our districts based on the sincerity of the people. So vote no for 77, but let's come back again and get rid of this Incumbent Protection Act that now exists.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Reyes.
I just rise to echo some of the words I heard yesterday from our Speaker of the Assembly, Fabian Nunez, where it was just point blank, blunt. This is an outright power grab. And given everything else that's happening in this state and the way it's happening, we need to vote no on 77. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Colleagues, that item is now before us. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
That item has been approved in opposition. Next order is item 21, Council President Padilla.
Actually, I think there's a speaker card or two on this item. Let's hear from the public first.
Great, thank you. Bonnie Shatton.
Yes, Mr. President, Madam President Pro Tem, members of the City Council. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to testify this morning. I am Bonnie Shatton. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, attended excellent public schools, and now I'm a second grade teacher. I have also been a mentor teacher responsible for new teacher support. I'm here today to ask you to support the resolution opposing Proposition 74. We call it the Blame Teachers Act. This initiative is unnecessary and ineffective. The governor claims his initiative will reform public education. What it really does is blame teachers for the problems in our schools without doing anything to solve the real challenges facing our children, such as overcrowded classrooms and lack of adequate textbooks and materials. I have come here to speak to you today because I believe that it is very important that you hear from someone who works in a public school classroom and knows what it takes to be a good teacher. I've been teaching for 34 years. Proposition 74, which attempts to lengthen the probationary period from 2 to 5 years, during which an educator has no due process rights, will do nothing to make teachers better. In fact, it'll do a great deal to dissuade good people from ever becoming teachers. This state will need more than 100,000 new teachers over the next 10 years. We should be trying to get more good people into the profession, not scaring them away. Proposition 74 is unnecessary. There is already a system in place to fire teachers who are not performing in the classroom. Existing state law allows teachers to be fired for unsatisfactory performance, unprofessional conduct, criminal acts, dishonesty, and conduct unfit for association with children, no matter how long they've been teaching. It is also unnecessary because now no teacher has a guaranteed job. This proposition is misleading. Right now, after 2 years, all teachers get is the right to a hearing before they are fired. This initiative would eliminate that due process right. It is ineffective because it does nothing to improve student learning. Recently, education experts at Stanford University said that there is no evidence to show that lengthening the probationary period for new teachers has any impact on student achievement or teacher quality. A new study just released from USC draws the same conclusions. Instead of blaming teachers, we should focus on proven reforms, such as providing mentoring programs and quality training for teachers. As teachers in the classroom, we know what works to improve education. Proposition 74 does nothing to implement proven reforms, like reducing class size, providing students with updated textbooks or materials, or giving teachers the training they need. I urge you to support this resolution against Proposition 74. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate you being here today. Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think I can say it better than a teacher can actually say it, but colleagues, again, this policy, as discussed in the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, brought to light a couple of things. First of all, from a policy standpoint, the state of California currently has a 2-year time frame for new teachers, where on a national basis, the average is about closer to 3 years. So if that's what we were trying to achieve, national conformity, it would seem to me that what this measure offers, a 5-year probationary period for teachers, is extreme. It is way too long. The practical effect that it's already having just by appearing on the ballot in the teaching profession is serving to cause concern, fear, instability among those seeking to go into the teaching profession or have recently entered into it. Colleagues, here in Los Angeles, we're proud of the record level of school construction that is currently underway. 100 new schools in Los Angeles alone. Because of our growing student population, our effort to uncrowd classrooms and schools, our efforts to reduce class sizes in the critical early years of education is putting an emphasis on teacher recruitment, not teacher discouragement. If quality of our teachers is of our concern, our efforts would be best focused on teacher recruitment and training and support, not these measures that are ill-crafted, inconsistent with national standards, and are serving nothing but a practical effect of discouraging people to enter the teaching profession. So again, we ask that we vote yes on this resolution and no on this proposition.
Thank you, Mr. President. Madam Clerk, those items are now before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
10 ayes.
That item has been approved. Next order of business.
Item 1 from the special meeting and the substitute motion has been circulated, and I believe the city attorney will walk us through each one of these votes.
Thank you.
The first vote is whether to substitute.
I'll come right back if you need me to.
Before we actually take that first vote on whether or not to substitute, Ms. Gruhl, anything further?
Sorry, say again?
Anything further on the
No,
motion?
I'm pleased to move that item forward on the 3 votes we have right now.
Okay, so the first vote, according to the city attorney, is on whether or not to substitute. The substitute motion has been circulated. Mr. Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that motion carries. The second vote now.
The second vote is on the substitute motion itself.
Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. And the third vote?
And I believe before we get to the third vote, the planning department has a representative that will speak to the zone change.
I believe if that's necessary, otherwise we're just going to instruct them to vote to rezone to RS1, the conditions.
Okay, if there's no questions of the planning staff, I think we can proceed with the vote. Paperwork is in order.
And just for clarification, it has been circulated now from the planning department.
Correct.
Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that is approved. And we can send that matter in its entirety forthwith, please.
And because it is an ordinance, it will carry over for 1 week.
Okay, next item.
Item 3 from the special meeting was called special for cards from the public, and the amending motion that has been circulated.
Okay, this is items 3 and 4 concurrently. Mr. Melrose Larry Green, please come forward for public comment.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is a great meeting. Everybody should come to them. Everybody should watch them on TV. Special 3 is very important. This is a request for proposal, or RFQ, to develop the strategy, scope, function, and structure of a proposed department to coordinate the city's anti-gang efforts. Studies have shown there are over 500,000 gang members in the Los Angeles area. 500,000. I hope maybe some gang members are flipping through TV right now and watching this. You don't have to be a gang member. Sponsoring this motion are Councilman Cardenas and Parks, both of whom come from minority backgrounds, both of whom worked their way from nothing to go very far in life, and neither of them are done going where they've been. The gang problem is not a Democratic or Republican problem. It's a pandemic as serious as the AIDS epidemic, but it can be solved easily. And this item is very important because it will mainstream and result in effective utilization of our resources to solve the gang problem and get young men and women out of gangs and into productive roles in our society. So I support item 3. Item 4, on a totally different vein, has to do with having banners on the streetlights announcing the Warner Center Transit Hub and the start of the Orange Line service. This, for those of you that don't know, is a busway that goes all the way from North Hollywood to and Chandler all the way out to Warner Center. It will save us gasoline, save commuting time, and make LA into the great mass transit center that my city, New York, is back in the East Coast. So I support items 3 and 4 for different reasons. But Republicans are good people, and we support good things. I'll save my other comments for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Madam Clerk, items 3 and 4 are before us on the special agenda. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
10 ayes.
Those items have been approved. We're now moving to public comment. I'd like to ask Mort Allen. Oh, sorry, special 1 and 2. I think we took care of special 1. Was that
Madam
the
President, there's
continuation?
actually a Rule 23, Special 1, that has been
Okay.
introduced by Councilmember Parks, seconded by Councilmember Padilla, and the city attorney will speak to the findings.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Just yesterday, the LA for Kids Steering Committee recommended that the Prop K RFP deadline be extended. Immediate action is required to allow sufficient time for the submission and review of proposals within the confines of the competitive grant cycle. Council must first make findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2 before considering the substantive motion.
Thank you. So our first order of business is to take this item up and the findings. And so, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
10 ayes.
That item is now before us. Any comments? Mr. Parks?
Yes, Madam Chair, it's self-explanatory. It's a similar situation we were in last year where our proposals did not get in time, and we're just asking that the RFP deadline be moved to Friday, October 28th.
Till Friday, October 28th?
Yes.
Okay. That item now before us, Madam Clerk. Oh, sorry, Mr. Labange?
Just an explanation. Today, when was the deadline?
The deadline was initially September the 30th, 1 p.m.
And why are we extending it any longer than?
Because our projects did not get in to be reviewed, and they would not.
But they were 15 minutes late, so why don't we, Mr. Echeverria's here? Just about to ask a question. Is of this year. The last year, Recreation and Parks Administration was in City Hall East. This year, they're on 7th Street. For being, I think it's 12 minutes late if I have the correct time, is there a grace period?
No.
Why,
No,
can we create a grace period?
No, the RFP itself, the announcement made it very clear that late proposals would not be considered, although the city did reserve the right to extend the time for submittals formally, which is what we're doing here.
So this is the
It was
proper
made
way to do it?
Very clear that it was an absolute deadline.
Same thing we did last
Although there is some authority for acceptance of proposals or bids late in some circumstances, not where it would affect the integrity of the process. And here, the perception would be that the city is giving itself, in effect, a break, where others would not get the similar break.
Do you support this action?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The way to treat it.
The question I just wanted to ask, though, and maybe the CAO, when we once were all confined here, it was easy to move and make deadlines. I know they're located on 7th Street, and if they were 12 minutes late, I'm sure they were coming from 7th Street. But that is not the case. This is going to be extended to October 28th?
October 28th at 1 p.m.
And what else will be included from that? Well, is all that is in now, or are we going to include more, or the?
We need sufficient time to let everyone who is initially notified of the opportunity to present a proposal, to give them time to to give the same notice in all fairness. So,
all right, and does it have to go to committee at all?
No.
No, not at all.
Okay. All righty. Thank you very much. I support this.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Parks, the special one is now before us. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
10 ayes.
Thank you. That item has been approved. Special 2.
Special 2 has been introduced by Councilmember Cardenas, seconded by Rosendahl, and the city attorney will speak to those findings.
Just yesterday, LAPD requested the City Council offer a reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person responsible for the kidnapping and sexual assault of a 7-year-old girl in the Northridge Canoga Park area. Immediate action is required because the suspect remains a threat to the community. Council must first make findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2 before considering the substantive motion.
Thank you. The findings are now before us. Colleagues, Madam Clerk, open the roll on the findings, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
10 ayes.
That item is now before us. Mr. Cardenas.
Yes. Thank you. As Councilmember Smith is not present today, he asked me to announce that on this item, the suspect is at large and he is dangerous, having harmed a young girl already. Councilman Smith is holding a press conference on Monday, October 17th at 9 a.m. regarding this reward offer, and also to give more information to the public about how they could help, hopefully, to apprehend this suspect.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Colleagues, that item is now before us. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
10 ayes.
And we will send both Special 1 and 2 forthwith. We'll return now to public comment. Thank you, Mr. Allen, for waiting.
Before my main comment, let me just say that I think it's pretty rude when it's the first item on the agenda and somebody has to wait 2 hours and 35 minutes to speak. You know, if you're going to put it on the end, then people would know it. But if you get here 5 minutes late, you could miss it or you don't. But anyway, about 10 days ago, I was with an old friend of mine, Alex's chief of staff, Felipe Fuentes, and I was talking to him about my collection that I have of historic city documents that were willed to me by Kersey Kinsey, who was a member of the Planning Commission for about 30 years, from 1943 to about 1973. And he was looking at it and he said, gee, you should really make copies of this for some of your friends. So I just wanted you to know, a lot of you, I didn't make enough for everybody, but some of you got these things, which is really interesting. But what it shows, what I want you to get out of this, that's why I stayed, is city planning used to be phenomenal. They used to do all this long-range planning and figure everything out, and it worked really good. So I started to figure out what went wrong, and I figured out they turned out to be an extension of the building department. They were only caring about everyday zoning matters. And it's so simple. Overnight, this could be fixed. Put yourself together, a Department of City Planning that does planning. Look in this book how they did it. Take the zoning administration and the day-to-day approvals and put them over in building safety, where you've got probably the best manager in this country, the way Andrew runs it, and make it just a total long range. And before you even think about getting a director of this new city planning department, you have two of probably the best city planners in the country here on this council. Ed Reyes and Wendy Gruhl. I mean, Wendy was with HUD for a long time and did all the planning on the West Coast for HUD. And Ed Reyes grew up in the planning department, and I think that it's something that you could do overnight here and fix what's broken. And that's...
Thank you, Mr.
Madam President, I just want to salute Mort Allen for getting his archives, and Felipe Fuentes, the deputy, for Mr. Padilla, and I know your work in the past with all those historic documents that Mr. Deaton had in his old office. It's so important, and it's so nice to see how they wrote about these things, and the limited number of words. It wasn't a 100-page report on accomplishments, but it was 2 pages that blank, 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 boom, 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 put it out. It'd make us all proud of our city's history. Thank you for your suggestions and your kindness, Mort Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Mr. Garcetti has already pointed out that there was a Sunland Tahunga Community Center in there. We're going to look at 1949 proposed. So, Ruben Gammenberg, who's here, who was here on Special 1, but it was accidentally put in the public comment period. Would you like to speak?
So I just had one question.
Yes.
I didn't follow. Did the motion pass on?
It did pass.
For RA1?
Yes.
I have no comments, so thank you very much.
You're fine with that. Okay. Thank you very much for being here. My apologies that it was in our general comment. Next, Melrose Larry Green.
Is there a clock on this? I don't want to overstep the time bounds. Is there a clock? Is there a time limit in my speech? 3 minutes? Do I get 3 minutes? No. I do need 3 minutes. Can I have 3 minutes, Madam President? Thank you. No. First of all, as a Republican, it's not a crime to be Republican in the city of LA. I very much resent using city council business to basically do electioneering on the motions on 73, 74, 75, and 76, and 77. And I think it would be appropriate in the future for the city council to do like they do on an election ballot, to present both sides on an issue so that the voters at home can understand what these initiatives are all about from both sides. Excuse me? Right, like the League of Women Voters, exactly. Now, I got to move on because I don't have time like you do. My time is of the essence. Secondly, in terms of AIDS, I think that people ought to consult what President Bush and the Bush administration has done in terms of AIDS funding over the years. It's been more generous than his predecessor, but let's not be confused with the facts. Number 3, let's all work together. There's a theme song, let's work together, da-da-da-da-da, let's work together. That means Democrats and Republicans. That means traffic, crime, homelessness. These are not Democratic or Republican issues. Invite Governor Schwarzenegger to the horseshoe. Invite President Bush. Get ready for a historic announcement at the end of my speech. I still have a groundbreaking historic announcement. We're not there yet. Thirdly, today is homecoming at Hollywood High School. I will be there at 3 o'clock as a celebrity at the game. I invite Councilman Garcetti, since it's your district, come. We're playing North Hollywood. I presume that's Councilman Gruhl's district, but you're invited. Hollywood High School homecoming, Councilman Labange. The football star from Marshall, you're invited. I don't have a whole lot of time here. I feel like I'm on a TV show now. Oh, there's no culture in LA. There's tons of culture with the Hollyhock House. We covered that. What else? I'll welcome Senator John Kerry and welcome Senator Clinton. I hate even saying her name, to Los Angeles. Welcome to LA. But I do want to save my groundbreaking announcement for right now.
50 seconds.
Welcome Senator Kerry and Senator Clinton. But I want to be the first person, as a Republican and as a former Democrat, to suggest that a certain person throw his hat into the ring as a candidate for President of the United States. If not now, not when. If not him, then who? I want to be the first, before everybody else, to suggest that Mayor Villaraigosa run for President of the United States in 2008. Thank you. I'm Melrose Larry Green. Have a great weekend. You got my support, Antonio. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Our next speakers are South Central Farmers. We'll go for
Good evening, City Council members. It was nice to see some of our community leaders yesterday at East Los Angeles Community College. It was very interesting. And I also like to invite, personally, all the City Council members who have never been to our garden. You should go. It's really an amazing place. You'll fall in love with it. The environment is very family environment. Kids are running around, See it for yourself. You should guys go and see and witness what we've been preaching about this garden for 2 years. Especially John Perry, I personally invite you. And once again, we are to ask the mayor and the city council to reconsider our issue because we feel that this environment is fundamental for our community. Like I said before, it provides a safe environment for our children. It encourages healthy habits, and we are teaching our youth about agriculture. So stop by anytime. You guys are welcome.
Thank you very much.
Y aquí estamos y no nos vamos.
Thank you for being here today. Mr. Clerk, next order of business.
Madam President, council has lost a quorum at this point.
Okay. So, colleagues, what we'd like to do is anyone have any announcements before we adjourn our council meeting today? Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of announcements. One, for those districts that are impacted by the upcoming construction of the Mid-City Exposition Line. There are going to be 3 meetings scheduled for the review of the EIR. One is Wednesday, November the 2nd, 5 to 8 p.m. at the Veterans Memorial Auditorium in Culver City. One is Thursday, November 3rd at West Angeles Church, 5 to 8 p.m. And the last meeting will be at Wednesday, November 9th, 5 to 8 p.m. at Exposition Park, the Annenberg Building. Also, copies of the EIR are available at all city libraries. Also, just an announcement that tomorrow at 10 o'clock at the Lemert Park Vision parking lot, we're going to have a Oktoberfest and entertainment for those recently arrived victims of the Katrina and the Rita storms, and that there will be a number of community and information booths in order to meet some of the people that are recent arrivals in the city of Los Angeles. That's between 43rd Place, 43rd Street on Degnan Boulevard. And then finally, just as a notice that came out from the MTA, and this primarily impacts the Valley, that there's a company called Popular Cash Express that no longer sells Metro bus passes. Over 45 outlets, they abruptly chose not to sell them, and that any information should be directed back to the service center offices of the MTA.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you. I just want to announce the American Diabetes Association is having a walk to raise funds and awareness about diabetes at Sepulveda Basin, otherwise known as Balboa Park, at 9 a.m. So it's an opportunity to go and learn. They're going to have plenty of booths, and at the same time, an opportunity to raise money on the issue of diabetes in our country. It is the leading cause of death amongst many communities, and certainly here in Los Angeles, it's a big issue. So please come out, 9 a.m. Saturday, tomorrow, Balboa Park, a walk to raise awareness and funds for the American Diabetes Association. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Any other announcements today? That being said, our meeting is now adjourned. Have a great weekend.